I'm reading too much. Are you reading too much? Is there such a thing as reading too much? Let's get into that. If you've not been here before, I'm Jack, this is Spread Book Joy, and today I am having a kind of existential moment where I've realised that I can do anything I want with my life, but I can't do everything. And books, since I've been on booktube, have just dominated my spare time. Reading is dominating my spare time, and there are so many things I want to do other than that. But I never thought, as someone who's a lifelong reader, that I would ever say I'm reading too much. I've always thought I don't read enough. I've got a history of my reading habits and myself as a reader. I did a evolution of a reader book tag a few years ago. It was a big book tag, loads of people did it. I loved it because my master's research is around what makes someone a reader and how their reading lives change over time. And so I talked about that at length there. So I'm not going to talk about that here because it's already been done, but I'll link that video if you're interested in the description box. If you've never done the tag and you're new to booktube, feel free to do it because I'm always interested in hearing people's reading evolutions. But yeah, I'm at another stage of my reading evolution journey where I've suddenly thought how damaging the amount of reading I'm doing is to other aspects of my life. Part of that is because I'm rereading this book at the moment. I'm rereading this book, 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. And this is a great book. It's called Time Management for Mortals. And it's actually more of a kind of philosophical look at the amount of time we have in our lives, which if you live to the age of 80, if you're lucky enough to live to the age of 80, you'll probably have about 4,000 weeks. And what we do, how we spend that time, and the impact of kind of productivity culture on us, and the impact of capitalism on us, and the impact of just modern life on everybody and how we spend our time, and how to be more intentional about how you spend your time, but also some massive realizations. And one is we have a finite amount of time. We find that hard to believe. We know it, but we don't really feel it until you get to a certain age. And I think I'm getting to that age where I'm really feeling it. You know, when people around you start to pass away or get elderly, you start to realise that the finite amount of time you have. And then if you realise actually how finite your time is, how do you want to spend it? Like, really, how do you want to spend it? And are you thinking about this future, which is not guaranteed? Are you constantly working towards something rather than living your life now? So I've been rereading this because I've been pondering lots of things, and rereading this because I've been thinking about how I spend my time, but also thinking about how I spend my time because I'm reading this. It's a bit of a cycle. So that's important information at the start of this. I'd recommend this book if you've never read it before. It's very good. But yes, back to what I was thinking about with reading. So I did a video at the start of January where I was talking about the fact that I have not been enjoying my stuff I've been putting out on booktube. And then I started thinking about all the other things that I want to do. And every year I think, right, I've been on booktube. This is my 4th year on booktube. Like, I'm in my 4th year. Every year I think, I need to get back to some of the things I was doing before booktube. So there are so many things I love doing that I don't do anymore, that I want time to do. And you can't make more time. So when we talk about making time, there is no more time to make. You basically have to think you can do anything, but you can't do everything. The whole Oliver Burkeman book here came in handy with that. Like, if you're saying yes to certain things, you're going to be saying no to other things. You need to really think. And it just hit me that all I read in all my spare time because I'm saying yes to too many things. And then I thought about whether I'm really enjoying that reading. And I'm enjoying the majority of my interactive reading with people that I do, like buddy reads, group reads, etc. But there's so many of them going on sometimes that I feel like I'm overwhelmed with thinking of these books, and they start to become chores. Not that I'm not enjoying the story or the plot or the discussion, because I usually am, but I wake up in the morning and I think, I'm going to read 10 pages of that, and I've got to read another 13 pages of that, and I think I'll listen to that bit on audiobook, and then I might read a bit of the book that I'm reading at bedtime just for me. So like, this is how it's going round and round in my head. Does anyone else have this? If you're someone who watches booktube but doesn't have a channel, do you have these things? If you have a channel, do you know what I'm talking about? I just suddenly was like, I had these realizations about my channel where I'm making all these videos, one because they were easier to make, and two because I felt I had to tell you about everything I read. I've stopped that now. I also had a realisation a few years ago that numbers on booktube, like talking about the amount of reading I was doing and clocking the amount of reading and setting a reading goal for myself, that was really toxic for me. For a lot of people it works for them. For me, it was just making me focus on the amount. I've got to get through this. How many books I read this month? Not really thinking about the reading itself. So I moved away from that, but I'm still doing it. I'm still like, books have become something that I need to finish, not something to savour. And I really hate that. And I've been joining this brilliant read along. I'm going to shout out Jolene at Bookworm Adventure Girl and Lindy from Lindy's Magpie Reads, who put together a group to read A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth, which is one of the longest novels written in English, possibly the longest. I think it was at the time it was published anyway. And I've wanted to reread that for a long time, but all the other reading has got in the way. And they started this read along, and it's like 20 parts, 1 part per month, like 1 part per week. So they're like about 5 months. We're going to be reading this till the end of June, I think. And we're on part 3, and I read a few pages a day. And I savour it, and I think about it, and I sit with the characters, and it's just made me remember that just immense joy of just savouring a book. And I'm not saying I haven't been doing that all the time, but this has really been like that for me. This is like, I'm not aiming to finish this book, I am sitting with it. And it just suddenly made me realise, well, have I been doing that with every book? No, I have not. I've been trying to go, right, I need to finish that because I'm starting this buddy read next week, so I really need to get that off my plate. And I don't want books to be a thing to get off my plate. I don't want that anymore. And this is partly because of online, like, not the book community, not the people who are a part of it, the system itself. You know, YouTube, Instagram, all of that, because I was part of Instagram for a long time. You know, it's a capitalist tool. It's designed to keep us clicking and wanting more and consuming. And there's been plenty of videos about the consumption problem, the consumerism that goes on as part of booktube. And there are plenty of videos. And there are plenty of people who run booktube channels who are not consumers, who only use library books. So yes, you're thinking, this is a you problem. Yes, it's totally a me problem. So I'm just putting this out there as this is my problem. Does anyone else resonate with this problem? And you know, plot twist, exactly. It's not the booktube community. It's not the fault of reading. It's me and my lack of self-awareness until this point in my life about what is important for me. So I've started thinking about things I want to do, you know, and don't get me wrong, I love the community. I still want to do buddy reads. I still want to do stuff. If you want to ask me if I want to do stuff, ask me. I'm going to start saying no to stuff more though. This is going to be a year of saying no, because if you're saying yes to everything, you say yes to one thing, you've got to say no to something else, right? Our lives are finite. There are things I also want to do. I want to spend time with people I love. I want to play with my cat. I want to do some writing. I want to crochet. I want to, you know, stare at the wall. I want to play computer games. I love it. I love Nintendo Switch. I've got my Nintendo Switch during the pandemic and I love it. And I love those games because that's another form of storytelling. And I don't play them. And I know lots of people be like, I'd rather just read. Yeah, fine. But I also want to do these things, and I can't fill up every spare moment of my time finishing books. And when I say finishing, I'm saying that as opposed to reading books and just savouring them and sitting with them. I don't want to fill up my time with all of that and have time for nothing else anymore. So yeah, I suppose my point is I'm reading too much. Yes, I am. For me, reading's subjective. The amount you read is subjective, though I have been looking at to see if there is an amount that's too much, and you can get information overload. That's a real thing. In this information age, information overload is a real thing. It can become overwhelming. You can saturate your brain too much to the point where you can't take anything in. So I do think there is a tipping point for reading where you might be reading too much to remember what you're reading. And I want to remember what I read. I want to talk about it at length. I want to savour it. Are you reading too much? Do you become overwhelmed? Do you sit there thinking about what you've got to read that day, how many pages you've got to read, books you've got to finish, things you need to get through by the end of the month? Do you put parameters around your reading, like I've got to read these books this month? Does that help you? Are you one of those people who thinks, actually, no, I like to structure my reading that way, and that's fine? But have you stopped and thought that maybe you're doing too much? It's just something to consider. If you've never been here before, maybe you consider subscribing for more of this rambling nonsense. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you don't know what your thoughts are on it, or you do but you don't want to comment, maybe leave me an emoji with your thoughts which expresses them for me, and hopefully I'll see you again here soon. Bye.